So I grew up 6 miles up the road from here. 5th generation. I moved away, went in the military. Was in the military for a while. Came back, went to college, worked on several big ranches around Montana and Australia. I see a lot of older guys that don't want to improve or educate. You know, they stay stagnant. I mean, any time somebody tells you it can't be done, it's in my makeup to find a way to do it. Anytime we come up with a challenge, and this is the same way with all the guys that work here, it's anytime there's a challenge, we'll find a way to meet that challenge. Maybe we have to change the whole program. But there's a lot of challenges in this industry, and if you just throw up your hands and lay down, you're not going to last long, you know? And we're just continuing pushing the boundaries and you know, testing the limits. Not to say that I'm not bullheaded. I'm Irish. Mulvey Gulch was first started in the 1860s, several generations ago, and has passed hands a few times since then. The current owners have had it for over 20 years now. It's located in southwestern Montana, or right around 6,000 feet, is most of our grazing. The ranch itself is down closer to 4,000 feet. We're just located in the heart of Montana, between Butte, Helena, Bozeman, some of the major towns. So the owner originally bought this ranch in order to raise and sell hay. That's all he wanted to do, was raise and sell hay, and then luckily they incorporated cattle in with that, and traditionally we were a cow-calf operation. Started out as that. And this whole time they had a string of grocery stores in Minnesota. Well, they never incorporated the two together. We had the cattle ranch in Montana and grocery stores in Minnesota, and it was always a dream to combine those two. Took almost 20 years to fulfill that dream and to see those two connect. But finally, we were able to raise cattle on the ranch in Montana that sold in the same stores in Minnesota. Every time you sell a cow, whether it's a calf or a yearling or a stocker or a finished beef, every time you change hands of ownership, somebody gets a piece of that money every time it transitions from one owner to the other. What we're doing here on Mulvey Gulch is we're keeping that ownership of that cow under the same owner throughout its lifetime. We're not changing hands. We own that cow from the time it's born to the time it goes on your plate. One thing that's really unique to a ranch this size and an operation this diverse is a mixture of forward thinking but traditional values. We still use horses to move cattle on a daily basis. We are always in rough country where horses are a must. We use dogs. We use these animals as tools to move cattle in a low-stress manner, which in this rough country is a challenge, but it's a challenge that we take pride in overcoming. But we're also involved in forward thinking and accepting new technologies and thinking outside the box going forward. We're not just stagnant in the conventional way of doing things. We're learning new and possibly better ways of doing things. So it's a mixture. It gives us the freedom working here to take in old values and a mixture of new, and combining them, to do this job in a way that's enjoyable for the people that are working here, and provide the consumer with a product that they can take pride in buying. So my job is to manage this, is to manage the ranch. I manage the employees, the cattle. Lately, what I've looked at it is I manage the grass and the soil. It is an important piece of the puzzle. If those two pieces aren't right, then the rest of it might as well get thrown out. You're not going to have good cattle, and if you don't have good cattle, you're not going to need the employees to take care of them because you're not going to be making money, you're going to be selling out. And so it all starts with the bottom, the foundation, and that starts with the soil. And the soil can be improved in places that it's lacking, but it's a constant, it's not a battle, it's more of a challenge that we accept as stewards of the land. It's our job to improve the range, and as we improve the range, that shows up in our pocketbook. I mean, that's a good way of saying it. We see the end result in profit. Healthier grass, healthier soil, healthier grass, healthier cattle, less input costs, and more money in your pocket, more profit. Mulvey Gulch is certified with the AGA, American Grass-Fed Association. Our product is a grass-finished beef, which is 100% Black Angus, all natural, which means no antibiotics, no growth hormones, and grass-fed and grass-finished. We have certain standards to uphold to ensure our products are endorsed by the Grass-Fed Association. We're also certified with the Western Sustainability Exchange, WSE. Between those two entities, we make sure that we are running this ranch in a sustainable, long-term goals, conservative type environment. Grass-fed is kind of a niche market. It's geared towards, people that are health conscious, that don't want that bad fat, that omega-6, and want more healthier beef that they can eat. It's got a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin A, vitamin D, and without the additives of antibiotics or hormones. We eat it here. All the employees on the ranch eat it. We feed it to everybody during brandings and shippings, and they always comment on the flavor and how well it is. It's a very healthy, flavorful, natural meat. So we got 3,500 head, 1,100 mother cows, plus yearlings, plus 2-year-old finished steers. We run on about 100,000 acres, and that's private ground, lease ground, forest leases, grazing leases, BLM grazing leases, state ground leases, foothills, valleys, and mountain ground. Our genetics in our cows are genetics that do well on grass. Our cows do well on grass, and our beef cattle do well on grass. Our cows are moderate framed, easy fleshing, good feet, low milk, cows that do well on range ground with little inputs. And then they provide a steer or a heifer that goes into our beef program that is able to gain on grass. And those genetics are very important to this program. If we didn't have a good set of genetics to start with, we'd be putting in a lot of inputs in our cattle, and it would make it very cost efficient to finish cattle on grass, in this type of environment. One thing that's unique to us as far as to having a grass-fed product is being able to have a consistent product. We're able to have a product that's on a weekly basis is fresh. So 12 months out of the year we have fresh product going to the consumer. We're able to do that, 12 months out of the year in Montana, which isn't always easy. There's a lot of grass-fed operations that will have a 1 kill per year, maybe 2 kills per year, and then freeze that product throughout the year. Ours is fresh on a weekly basis, and so that's one thing we take pride in. Yeah, and it hasn't always been easy, and we're still learning, and it's changing, and it changes, every year. We have different winters every year, different summers every year lately. And so it's a dynamic, not really a struggle, but just a challenge, and every year throws us something different and new, and it's being able to roll with roll with the punches and still be able to gain favorably and offer a finished product, you know, and, a finished steer that makes good meat. We have a conventional herd of calving May-June calvers. We'll wean those calves off their mother that winter, depending on the amount of precipitation that we get through the year. We'll wean them earlier or later, you know, depending on the conditions. We'll run them as weaned calves on pivots on pasture through the winter, supplementing them with hay. And then the next spring, we'll put them on a rotational grazing program. As soon as the grass grows, we'll rotationally graze them throughout that summer, and then again on feed, as minimal amount of feed as we can, and still gain that following winter. And then back onto a rotational grazing the following summer, when some of them will finish at 24 months, and then they'll finish on throughout until 36 months of age. We break down based on how they gain and condition. We'll sort off heavier ones to finish faster. Light ones will keep trailing them along, and then get them to gain and finish later. We have a fall calving herd to kind of supplement that lag time between when our 3-year-olds are a little bit old and our 2-year-olds aren't ready to be finished yet. We haven't developed it into a huge number, just enough to supplement that right now. We're working on finishing 12 months out of the year, mainly on one set of cows, which is a challenge, finishing them on grass anyways. We sort off finished cattle every week, and we haul them into a slaughter facility that works with us. They harvest them there and break them down into the primal cuts, and then send them to our consumers. Some of our consumers are the grocery stores owned by this corporation that owns this ranch. And there they break them down even further in their butcher shops and sell them to the consumer. We take pride in not only them being on grass throughout their lifetime, but to finish them on grass, which in Montana is sometimes a challenge. We haven't always been successful at it. We started this program on the grass-fed side in 2016, and we started off the ground and failed our first time through. We regrouped, made some changes, and we've been doing it successfully since 2019, a little over 2 years. But if you look at the conventional way of raising cattle, a lot of good quality cattle come from this area. They start out, and then they sell them, and they get transported to the Midwest, where there's a lot of corn and grain, and that's why they ship them there, so they can finish them on corn and grain. We have grass, you know, but it's only 6 to 8 months out of the year. But we can finish them on grass up here and not have to ship them somewhere to find the feed. You know, finishing them in the winter is a challenge with hay, and that's a challenge that we've looked at, and we haven't hit it on the head completely yet. We're making progress. Finishing steers in the winter, I mean, our quality was just dropping. It was a complete mess, and we changed a few things, and we're able to pick that up. And this last year, it was just, you couldn't tell a steak from February versus a steak from June. I mean, just the quality was the same, with minimal input as we could possibly, you know, still do it, you know, to help out our bottom line. But yeah, it's a learning process. I mean, there's a lot of times where you can call on somebody in the industry and be like, you know, hey, how do you do this? How do you do this? Well, when you're out there by yourself, there's nobody to call on, you know, or not that many people to call on. And so you got to figure it out yourself. But that's what's exciting about it, is you're out there by yourself sometimes, and being able to figure out those challenges there's so much reward personally into figuring out ways to do things, to get around those obstacles. Part of this that is exciting is it's always changing. It's a dynamic industry, and if you keep doing the same thing, year in and year out, generation in and generation out, then you're going to be left behind. And to be able to be a forward-thinking, outside-the-box thinker, that's going to be the people that keep going forward. That's the sustainability that'll make sure a business or a family operation will go on to the next generation, is that outside-the-box thinking, thinking, different than everybody else. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out, but being able to make mistakes and learn from them is also, a step in the right direction. One of the big reasons that we're successful at this operation is being able to run our mother cows in the hills year-round. In the summer, in the winter, they come down to the corrals once a year, pretty much to wean the calf and to get preg tested, and then they get sent back out in the hills to rough it through the winter. One of the reasons they're successful at that is their nutrition program, and a big part of that is the Rio product that we feed them. It was around 2016 we started looking for a product that would help us stay in the certification with the AGA. We shopped around and found Rio, and you guys were able to develop a product that fit our needs, and that was a huge plus for us. We were in search for a product that we could feed our cattle and have the desired effect on our cattle as we needed, but still stay in that standard, still stay in and keep our certification for the AGA. And you guys were able to make that product. They're able to keep their condition through the winter, be able to get that protein out of the grass that's available to them without much supplementation. We do feed them a little bit of protein supplement in the winter, but a lot less than conventionally fed to them. They do well on the tubs and the conditions that we push them through. We make them work, and they come out of the first and second trimester with a very, very good body condition score. And then they are on grass on their third trimester in May and June, and calve at those times. So we used Rio effectively on our mature cows to cut costs, to cut hay costs, and our feeding costs, labor and time involved with feeding them hay through the winter. We do feed our young and growing cows, supplement them with a little bit of hay, but our mature cows will hardly see a hay bale throughout its mature lifetime. Our steers and heifers are able to utilize the Rio product and have gains upward of 3 pounds a day on grass. And in some of the driest climates, driest parts of the year, we're really happy with the results we've seen. Our conception rates are really favorable for the conditions that we run our cows in. We push them to the limit. And with Rio and the way we manage, we have conception rates that are right with somebody that puts in a lot of inputs in their cows to push them to be better. We don't hardly put any inputs in our cows, and we still push them hard. And with Rio and the way we graze our cattle, our conception rates are right there with the guys that put in those heavy input products. Our beef cattle are gaining without growth hormones, right alongside parallel to feedlot steers. Our steers on grass this summer gained on average 3.5 pounds a day, with some individual steers pushing close to 5 pounds a day on grass. The only product that's available to them was a little bit of salt and the Rio. There's several ways that Rio pays for itself. One big one is hay savings. We're able to utilize that protein from that grass, even if it's not the highest of quality grass. We're able to save on hay savings which this year with the drought, hay prices are twice of what they were last year, and last year was high. I mean, we're looking at saving, thousands of dollars per cows by being able to keep them on lower quality feed in the hills during their first and second trimester, instead of bringing them down and feeding them, even though it'll be cold and be snowy, hopefully. They'll still do well. We'll save money, not having to feed them on a daily basis. That's a huge one, is hay savings. Being able to save in a year where prices are outrageous. Not only prices are high, but the quantity of hay available is low. We had a third less hay put up this year, same way with just about everybody in this region. And so that's one of the reasons why prices are so high, is there's not as much of it available to us. So being able to save on hay fed out, and then, just overall nutrition, health of the cows. We're not having to spend a lot of money doctoring, keeping cattle healthy. That takes time, money. We see little need for antibiotics, but there's an acute case every now and again. In our program, anytime we doctor a cow, a steer or heifer, that's going into our beef program, we lose that premium. That equates to approximately $1,000 a head on what we could make as keeping them all natural, putting them in the beef program, selling them as beef that's all natural grass fed. Well, now we have to take them out of that program and market them separate. That's a big premium that we're losing by doctoring. But it's all part of that cycle with health. You start at your soil level, and if you have healthy soil, it just relates to your healthier grass, your more nutritious grass. And if you manage your cattle well on that grass, then your cattle are healthy, and so you doctor them less. And then if you can keep that cattle healthy and its rumen healthy, that gets passed through back to the soil. And if you're managing well, you should have little to no reason to doctor any cattle. We're not that lucky. We have, whether it's management or conditions, it's probably mostly management. We do doctor a few, but our cases are really few and far between. And so making sure their nutrition is dialed up and right will save us from unhealthy cattle, having to doctor multiple cows, and it just adds to more money in our pocket, keeping a cow on good nutrition just makes sense. Makes financial sense, but just makes sense. It's been a no-brainer to stay with Rio and continue using that product.